Why did Zubel refuse to participate in Kane's new adventure again after all? In the first episode, Zubel didn't want to take part in Kane's mission either and was dealt with by the Gloinks for it. But will she be facing anything in episode 3? I also learned that getting Pomni and Gummigoo into a room off the map was Kane's plan from the beginning of the adventure. I also found a few details that tell us what Zubel's involvement will be in the 3rd episode of the amazing digital circus. Also, I'll talk about the latest update to the Wacky Watch website and another fun fact that has to do with the official Glitch website. By the way, somewhere in the video, I hid a picture of Gangle, and anyone who finds it will get an interesting theory in the comments. Let's start with the scenes in which we did get a chance to see Zubel. When Pomni and Ragatha arrive at the main stage of the circus to find out about Kane's new adventure, Zubel was already standing there. We already knew from the pilot that Zubel hates to be part of adventures, and she wouldn't willingly go to Candy Canyon, so Zubel decides to just leave. At that point, Kane tries to interest Zubel and get her to stay, which is him telling everyone about a mysterious experimental and yet-to-be-tested AI that increases immersion 57 times. Jax, as usual, teases Zubel and says that it looks like Zubel doesn't want to mess with the new AI, but that doesn't convince Zubel, and she leaves anyway. Later, we find out what Zubel was up to. While everyone else was at Candy Canyon, she was getting everything ready for her farewell ceremony with Kaufmo. In these scenes, I was interested in the snippet where Kane promises improved artificial intelligence. When I think about which artificial intelligence stood out the most in Candy Canyon, it was undoubtedly Gummigoo. Based on this information, I have a new theory. It is that Kane took into account and planned from the beginning all the strange events that happened to Pomni in the adventure in episode 2. And the new artificial intelligence is Gummigoo. Gummigoo was created from the beginning by Kane to play the role of an NPC who has learned the truth about who he is and why he exists. He realized that he couldn't remember the faces of his acquaintances and his mother, and then very convincingly played a man who had lost the meaning of life. Kane's plan was that all of this was to create an incredibly immersive experience for whoever found themselves in the off-the-map room with Gummigoo. At the end of the adventure, Pomni thought she had now made a new friend, but she wouldn't be able to keep Gummigoo with her. Kane immediately put Gummigoo away after he played his assigned role. After all, if Gummigoo explicitly said he wasn't real, maybe all his emotions and behavior weren't real either, and were part of Kane's script from the start. Speaking of Gummigoo's disappearance, today, the Wacky Watch website has finally been updated. The watch now shows us a screenshot from episode 2. This is the moment in which Kane made Gummigoo disappear. And in the place of the crocodile, the very confetti that you can see in the screenshot has scattered. In the previous video, I said that many viewers might have misunderstood the scene where Gummigoo disappeared. Now that the show's creators are specifically emphasizing it, I am finally convinced of my position. This scene is not what it appears to be. Gummigoo didn't die, he just disappeared from the circus. In reality, Kane simply teleported him back to Candy Canyon, or recreated him there. He did it that way, so that he didn't need to open a portal. After all, Pomni could have followed Gummigoo through the portal. I'm sure Gummigoo is alive, and will definitely appear in new episodes of the amazing digital circus. By the way, let's discuss details about the 3rd episode of the show. Gooseworks has spoken well of the 3rd episode many times. She has high hopes for it. The episode promises to be a game changer, and even grander than episode 2. First of all, Gooseworks was once asked on Tumblr about which episode is her favorite. She replied that episode 3 is definitely among the very best. Back on Tumblr, another user said that his friend keeps insisting that Amazing Digital Circus is a children's show. Gooseworks offered to show him the 3rd episode as soon as it came out, and the new episode may well be considered suitable for children. However, Gooseworks has repeatedly said that in the future, Amazing Digital Circus will have plot development and scenes showing physical and mental violence. It's also been hinted at throughout the 2nd episode, and it's what Jax wants most of all. With this post, Gooseworks explicitly told us that episode 3 will be the tipping point from which the show will become much darker and more adult. Gooseworks also received frequent questions regarding why Zubel barely appears in episode 2. Gooseworks explained that Zubel doesn't appear in episode 2 specifically, but she will definitely appear more often in episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We also know that each new episode going forward will focus on revealing the character of one of the main characters. And we can confidently say that the 3rd episode will focus on revealing the character of Zubel and her backstory. While it barely made an appearance in episode 2, it will play a key role in episode 3. Getting off topic, let's take a look at the official pins for Amazing Digital Circus. They show the characters, with their rooms in the background. And while we've already clearly seen Pomni's room a few times, it's more interesting with the rest of the characters. Kinger's pillow castle we've already seen in pilot. We were shown Gangle's room. It's all shrouded in darkness and a small number of flashlights. Another corner of her room with a mirror we saw in one of the teasers. Zubel's room looks more unusual. The carpets and walls are decorated with various crazy, constructivist-style figures. The end result is a remarkable pattern of different figures everywhere in the room. Zubel's body itself is made up of a constructor. She periodically changes some parts on herself. This explains why her design will change in each new episode. And just near the mirror in her room, we can notice all the constructor parts in a box that she will change on herself. Jax's room is only shown from the outside. We can see the bowling ball that he took from Kaufmo's room in the pilot. And on the sides of the picture is a view of what looks like a void. Is there really a way into the void from Jax's room? Or maybe they just don't want to show us Jax's room yet, because there's something very important to the plot. I think there's definitely a wardrobe closet in Jax's room that holds the costumes he'll appear in future episodes. I'm talking about the Fats food worker costume that Jax appeared in one of the teasers, and the maid costume that Jax was drawn in by Gooseworks in one of the artwork. Gooseworks later didn't deny that this costume might appear in episodes of the show. I found Ragatha's room to be the most interesting of all these pins. In her room, we can see a piano and a closet that stands next to it. On the shelves are books and knitting supplies. This refers to the fact that Ragatha is a doll. The most interesting object on the shelf is a single gloink. I have a theory that this gloink is actually not a real gloink, but just a figurine. You may recall that scene in episode 2 where Jax forced Gangle to ram a tank of crocodiles. Then he threatened Gangle by telling Ragatha about a certain figurine. After that, Gangle got very excited and did as Jax wanted. I think that this gloink could be the figure that Jax told her about, but it remains unclear what Gangle did with Ragatha's gloink and why they need that figurine. I have another theory about this. When Pomni was upset about what happened to Gummigoo, Ragatha told her that Kane often uses old NPCs in new adventures in such cases. What if Ragatha had already been in the same position herself as Pomni? My theory is that Kane was running an adventure with the Gloinks long before Pomni was even in the circus. And on her first adventure, Ragatha befriended one of the Gloinks. That's why she learned that Kane was against players taking NPCs with them to the circus tent. So she decided to make a figurine to remind her of her first friend in the digital circus. What do you think of these theories? Why did Gangle need a figurine of Ragatha? What does the update to the Wacky Watch website mean? What will happen to Zubel in episode 3? Write your thoughts and theories in the comments, and I'll be sure to read them. The best comments will make it into the new video. Also, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Good luck everyone, and bye-bye.